everything comes back to human rights, fundamental rights, because they're the basis for everything. They're more than just good-looking words on a piece of paper, which nobody ever has to read again. When it comes to my primary work, which is asylum and migration and refugees, there will always be, people fleeing their homes because of violence or persecution, because of war, because of torture or threat of the death penalty. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and many millions of Ukrainians fleeing into other European countries underlines the importance of a functioning asylum network and a functioning asylum system. But of course, just the fact in itself that there are always asylum seekers who need protection, that in itself is not the main challenge that we face. It's the response of many European countries and EU countries also to this phenomenon that there are people fleeing their homes and asking for protection, which gives us a lot of work. Because what we see, and we see it especially in Hungary, that states, and now I'm going to talk about the Hungarian state, that the answer that they give to this is not one of inclusion and protection and respect for the human rights of people fleeing and asking for protection, but it's exclusion, it's increasingly hardline stance on these issues, and asylum seekers and refugees face a lot of violence and harassment along the way by the hands of the authorities of other countries who have a legal obligation to protect them. The constitutions of European countries and the treaties of the EU and the European Convention on Human Rights make it an obligation for governments and the executive to uphold and protect human rights. That's why we have a division of powers, that the governments or the executive branch cannot control the judiciary. And that is why in countries like Hungary or Poland, those in power really seek to take over the judiciary because they want to control the judges in order to get away with human rights violations. Whereas the judiciary and independent judges have a very strong responsibility in upholding democracy. And so do human rights defenders, lawyers, activists, of course, and I think everybody to a varying degree has a responsibility in this, because a strong and pluralistic democracy works when there are strong individuals in it who believe that their word matters and they're not afraid to use their voice and demand the rectification of injustices and demand that those in power act in accordance with the law, because they are not above the law either. We do face a lot of human suffering in our work. We talk with people who have been tortured, who saw their family members killed, and it is tough to know that this happened to them and to face so much injustice, especially when it's done to children, for example. And it can be a danger as well, in a way that you see so much of this horrible stories and suffering and injustices that if you don't pay attention, you can actually become quite cynical, and you can become negative in believing that, yeah, well, we're going to do this, but what is going to change? And that's another threat that we human rights defenders face. And when we go up against powers which are far greater than us, we're a group of 40 people now, and on the other side, it's the Hungarian government. The defendant is the state, and of course the resources and the narrative, it's incomparable. But yeah, and that can lead to burnout, it can lead to cynicism, and it's very important to pay attention to that as a group, as an individual, and to give a lot of tools for human rights defenders on how to prevent that. Even if it's very frustrating sometimes, and it can seem easily sometimes like there's no way out or there's no light at the end of the tunnel, it's the right thing to do at the end of the day. And that in itself is quite a strong force or reference point.